Okay.
All right. Well, welcome to this week's episode. I am so honored and excited and just in full pleasure to have my guest this week. Kauakea Winston is a healer and a teacher and a friend of mine that I am so excited to have and share her expertise and fun and joy with you. So I'm going to share a little bit about what I know about Kauakea with you, and then have her share a little bit as well before we hop into talking about astrology and tantra and diving into some really awesome topics today. So Kauakea is a Western astrologer and energy healer. She has been teaching at Sacred Path Healing since 2004, and that is also where I met her, and she was my healer and teacher in that program. And her approach to astrology is in finding compassion for self and others as we make our way through this earth journey in our human experience. And she offers energy and sound healing and combines your astrology with this practice of energy and sound healing, really to get a more in-depth understanding of yourself and your healing process and really understanding your own personal path. And she's based in Hawaii. She goes between Oahu and Big Island, and she also offers her practices for astrology and healing online. So she has clients all over the world, and especially these days with COVID, it's pretty much essential. So she's easily accessible. So welcome, Kauakea. And I mean, that's, kind of a short and beautiful bio. And I would love for you to share a little bit about your personal experience of what got you into astrology and tantra, and how that's kind of guided you to where you're at today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicole, for that beautiful introduction. And I'm excited to be with you all today. And many years ago, when I was Nicole's teacher at Sacred Path Healing, she asked me to do a photo shoot of her. And I was going to try to find this photo. I call it Deep Soul Nicole. And so whenever I think of you, I think of this photo of your deep eyes and this beautiful portrait I took of you at that time. And you're a deep soul. And here we are in Scorpio season right now. And, in 2 days, we have the Scorpio new moon coming up. And, it's this deep inner work that really is the transformational balm of what we all need. We know that a shallow life just isn't going to cut it these days, and we need our community, and we need to have these deep conversations that you're instigating through the work that you're doing with people. And I just love the work you're doing. I'm so excited to be back in touch and to be connected. So here we dive into the deep Scorpio waters of both astrology and tantra today. Today's a really big day astrologically, because Jupiter and Pluto are conjoined. And also there's a feminine asteroid, Pallas Athena, who's right there with the big giant Jupiter, the jovial Jupiter, I call that biggest planet in our solar system that brings so much optimism and hope. Pluto is this death and transformation energy, and Pallas, the warrior queen, she's all about this wisdom and intelligence. She's equal to men in every way. She was born out of her father, Zeus, Jupiter. They're together here, the father and the daughter, and she's of equal intelligence, born in full armor out of his head as his brainchild. And so I'm going to bring up some of my Vesta Mystery School cards to just go deeper into what, this is about. And then we'll talk a little bit about that. So let me do another screen share with a portion of my screen. And I'm going to pull this over here to just talk about what do we have energetically going on? For me, you know, astrology, how I got into astrology was through Fodiaba, my beautiful beloved who I was with for many years. And he and I had this tantric journey for 9 years that really changed my life from 1999 until 2008, when he left the earthly plane and went to the great beyond. And that's when I started to become the astrologer instead of him. And this whole thing has culminated into a partnership with him through the ethers with Vesta Mystery School at this point. So here we have, you know, Jupiter, the god of expansion and learning, consciously expressing itself as opportunities for learning, exploring, and understanding. Every planet has both a conscious and unconscious expression. You know, Jupiter alone can be overindulgent, extravagance with excess, excessive spending and restlessness, you know, just go, go, go. Here's Pluto, the god of death and renewal, transformation, renewal, embracing the mystery of life and its cycles of birth, life, death, and renewal, soul growth through painful experiences, and unconsciously destructive, obsessive, and violent tendencies, unintegrated feelings, and deep pain and darkness. So if we want to move to the conscious expression, today is the third and final connection of Pluto and Jupiter at 22 degrees of Capricorn. So you want to look in your chart to see where is 22 degrees Capricorn. And if you don't know, come and have a reading and I'll help you figure it out. But Goddess's warrior queen palace is right there. This wisdom and this creative intelligence. This is where we want to be able to really become the warrior queen, and that strong feminine energy that we have that has to do with, it's like a combination of Libra energy, which is very fair and balanced, with Aquarius, super innovative, really new and different, and Leo, just a leader, leading with the heart. And so, you know, this week not only is this super big conjunction of these three planets, but tomorrow Mars, after a very long retrograde, is going direct and in Aries. And so Mars has been in its own sign of Aries since August. It will stay there till January 6th. And this feeling of like, we want to do it. It can be like, oh, no, I can't, you know, and back and forth. But again, just going back to cyclical time, you know, this is my passion with astrology, because if we don't honor these cycles, then we are not living in, you know, really a natural way. Then we're part of a patriarchal kind of systemic way of thinking that has had us all productivity oriented. You know, how can we produce? How can we make more money? How can we be more successful? It's very yang energy. And, you know, I love what you're teaching, which is just all Venetian Venus. You know, this is all about pleasure. This is all about that the female psyche must be free. And that's really what my 9 years with Fodiaba was about, not only awakening me to the conscious aspects of how to use astrology in daily living and how to have a compassion towards ourselves and others through astrology, but how to honor the natural rhythms and cycles. Just like we're not going to say, well, I don't care if it's winter, I'm just going to go out in my bikini, or I don't care if it's summer, you know, I'm going to wear a snowsuit, you know. these we know the seasons well enough to respect those cycles of nature, but really by following the phases of the moon, even if it's just the two phases of the new moon and the full moon, you're tuning into nature in a really deep and profound way that allows you to live in the marriage of the inner feminine masculine, which to me, that's what Tantra is. We're living within ourselves to where we have a soft, kind, inner feminine, you know, resting place, as well as a really active, young, electrical, exciting, you know, a way of coming out in the world and getting things done, and allowing that, you know, exciting energy to push the momentum. And so anyway, some thoughts.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I haven't heard of the palace one before in the astrology. So I just learned something new around that inner feminine of the Libra and Aquarius mix as well. And so for people that are brand new to astrology, and for where Pluto and Jupiter are at right now, what does that kind of look like for people in their day-to-day life? Like what I imagine is like they might have some upheaval around communication or wanting to go somewhere between like the Pluto and the Jupiter and family. And I'm curious like what that looks like for people to be aware of like what energies are kind of predominant right now, so they can, because I really see astrology as a forecast, right? So you're kind of like the weather, the weather
No, it is.
woman.
It's like a weather report. You're right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I made an Instagram post that says, may your creative intelligence bring forth the expansion of your transformational life. May your creative intelligence bring forth the expansion of your transformational life. Now, you know, we're all kind of shedding our snake skin and transforming and growing. And it's like our old life dies and we have these new lives that keep coming, new chapters. Sometimes it's too fast. And we were like, whoa, you know, I'm not ready to shed another layer of my skin. Where Jupiter's involved, everything, it's like a great magnifying glass. It enlarges. So here it is with Pluto that says death and resurrection, death and renewal. In Hawaii, Pele energy is Pluto. It says we have to destroy in order to create. So what is it time to let go of? And it might, because Jupiter is the guru planet or the teacher, you know, what are the beliefs that might no longer fit you, that might be religious or philosophical, or in some way things you held on to around what you think life is about, the mystery of life, Pluto. You know, we have our own experiences, and to me, that's the best school of all. And when something doesn't work, and we really, you know, Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio, and we're in Scorpio season right now. And in order to go in and really feel the pelvis, the power of the womb, the power of this water element that says, feel very deeply. And in feeling very deeply, we transform. And so that's really what this time is about, is like, what kind of do we want to shed? What are we feeling really deeply about? And how can we embrace the mystery of life? That there's never a full death. There's just these mini deaths.
Yeah.
And with the Pallas Athena right there with Jupiter and Pluto, there's this way that we can rise with our feminine strength that isn't so yielding and isn't so giving our power away, but it is saying, you know, I really trust in my own creative intelligence. You know, how I see and perceive things is very important. You know, looking at the natal astrology chart, I add these 4 feminine asteroids because other than Venus and the moon, everything in a Western astrology chart is based on masculine principles. And so, you know, if you get the 4 feminine asteroids in, plus you get the moon and Venus, then you've got 6 aspects that are feminine to look at. How are we going to move that energy? And when you get to know your natal birth chart with those feminine asteroids, you can begin to use that energy. For instance, you know, I have Pallas and my Juno in my 12th house. And this is the way that I intuit, and my readings are very intuitive. And so I'm not just pulling from traditional astrology. There's just gnosis. There's knowing that comes in from that placement of where those asteroids are in my 12th house in my chart that I use as part of my astrology practice. But just knowing those placements, it's like tools in a toolbox. I can say, okay, I have Pallas and this other meaningful partnership asteroid here. Let's call on them to, you know, I work a lot with couples. I work a lot with people who really want to understand how deep in relationship with another person. So that I've done a lot of work in my life in that area. And we'll go more into that as I share about my journey with Fodiaba and the tantric aspects. So.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. Like, I feel like this is a perfect segue into that, and for just to like reflect and seal in what I've heard about this time in particular with Pluto and Jupiter is a time to slow down and feel your and like get into that feminine inner, into your hips, your womb, your pussy, all the places, into your bones, and really allow yourself to ground into feeling your way through and rising up in your own strength. Because with my relationship with Pluto has been like it's not comfortable. It's very it can feel like the rubbing of raw skin, kind of like it's the alchemy, or like the phoenix burning down. It really is that feeling. So if anyone watching this right now is feeling that in their lives, where it's like shit's hitting the fan, or I'm getting to look at really painful aspects of myself, it's there for healing and for transformation. And just know that you're not crazy. And if you're feeling crazy, it's because of these energies and these influences that are very real time, very much how the moon influences the ocean waves and gravity on the earth. We are those same elements. So just know that this type of astrology can really help you understand when you're going through stuff that you just don't you're like, why is this happening? Or like, why is this coming up? And I think it's so powerful. And you commenting on the feminine piece too, because it is left out of astrology a lot of the time from what I've seen. And it really needs to be integrated in for us to have a holistic experience. So thank you for touching on that. And with that being said, I'd love to segue into the tantra and how yeah, because I know astrology was a huge piece of that too in you and Fodiaba's relationship. So I'm not sure where you want to start, but I'll let you take it from.
Okay. I want to complete with just one piece on the astrology, and that is that we're entering an eclipse season. So November 30th is the full moon lunar eclipse. And that will be, the sun will be in Sagittarius, the moon will be in Gemini. And so that could be a chatty time. There could be communication issues that come up around talking too much, or things we do need to talk about and things like that with that full moon lunar eclipse. Then we have a total solar eclipse on December 14th in Sagittarius. And so the sun and moon will be in Sagittarius. It's going to be interesting because that's the day the Electoral College makes its final vote. But by the middle of December, finally Jupiter and Saturn will move out of Capricorn and move into Aquarius. And really, we have this very big, hopeful winter solstice coming on December 21st, which is a conjunction, which all the astrologers are talking about, the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, which starts a 200 plus year era of air quality, of moving into the Aquarius air quality, and we're moving out of a 200 plus year Earth cycle. And it has to do with when Jupiter and Saturn, you know, connect up in this in a different element. And so I'm feeling very optimistic. I think that the eclipse season is always a big turning point, and you'll find big shifts happen in your life during the, you know, between the end of November, mid-December. But I really feel that Aquarius, this is the air sign that says we're the water bear. We're bringing the living waters to the earth of a new era of thinking, of humanitarianism, of brotherhood, of sisterhood, of just the people, we the people. And so, you know, it's really hopeful. So, you know, hang in there through this final third Jupiter Pluto conjunction. And I know Pluto can mess with us, but we have to sometimes go easy on that transformation and not try to do it all at one go. You know, we can peel layers over the years.
Yes.
So, but okay, so I'm going to talk about Tantra and about Fodiaba and my 9-year journey now. Wow, you know, wow. I'm like, I really part of all this has brought me into being fully human, because the grieving process has been so enormous that it's been a lifelong kind of practice to understand what grief is. So it's like really living, having like a 9-year period where I was having like the most glorious, fabulous, blissful sex of my life. And he and I would really surrender to the alchemy of what love was doing with us. And it wasn't that he was in charge or I was in charge. We knew we had love that was in charge. Love was remaking us both. And the way we loved each other was our meditation. It was our process of surrender. We weren't surrendering to each other. We were surrendering to love, which took us on this journey of just incredible ecstasy. So part of my grieving process was creating a book. Where did I put it? I had it out here a second ago. Called Letting Love Win, The Journey of Surrender. And here it is on my pile. Letting Love Win, The Mystical Journey of Surrender. And here's Fodiaba and I early on when we fell in love, and this is by a photographer named Christina Bouchon. And you know, he was this mystic. You know, I fell in love with this shaman. I felt like I kept singing that song after we met, you know, I called the witch doctor, the witch doctor. You know, because he comes into my home to help me with some carpentry work to hang my curtains. And he's asking before I leave, well, you know, do I want an astrological oil blend based on my chart? And I have some little printout, and I give it to him. And, well, would you like a chiropractic adjustment? Yes. He adjusts me, and then he hands me a stick of incense, and he leaves. I'm like, who was that man? And so I sit and watch this incense burn down and stare at it for however long that took. And then I got up and went roller skating at the tennis courts near where I lived. And the next time he came to hang the curtains, he's up on the ladder, and I said, you know, I had this strong desire to skate. And he was also a skater, and that was our first date. We just skated backwards in this incredible rhythmic flow. And I knew then there was just this magic. And while I was ironing those curtains for him to hang, it was like this descent of an energy from the top of my head that brought peace throughout my entire body, all the way down to my toes. And I had never experienced any feeling like that, you know, in my life. So as part of my grieving process, I created this blurb book, which I honestly, I don't sell it. I created it for myself, but I'm going to share it. This is my first time I'm sharing it publicly. I've shared it at Sacred Path Healing School as a hardcover book, but I haven't really let people know. I was joking with one of your classmates, Sue Magoo, that I'm coming out of the tantric closet. Because I called it the T word for so long, because many people think tantra is only about sex, but it isn't. You know, this is about an energy that takes you into it means to weave tantra, and it's weaving your inner feminine masculine energy in such a way that you're pulsing with this gentle pulse of life. And this book has some of my writing in it from my journal at this time. The chakras oscillating inside, blowing like a gentle fan in soft rhythm with the pulse of my soul. Wanting nothing, to just be and experience myself like this is so much. Forgiveness, healing, transcendence of the pain and suffering that have been my teachers for the past few years. Letting go of desire into the heart of love. So, you know, this is just this incredible journey of, you know, loving loving him became loving God. Him loving me just took us inside very deep, you know. And take my hand as you would gather your own soul. Find me here in the center of my heart, longing to return to the Father. You know, spiritual ecstasy of this kind of lovemaking can never go back now. Going inside, the only pursuit worth longing for. And I had a very big journey with Fodiaba. He had a lot of health problems. And even though we had the divine bliss, we had a lot of Pluto skin shedding transformation. He was wearing a snake vertebrae around his neck the day I met him. And he was constantly shedding his skin. Literally, he shed skin. He had full body erythrodermic psoriasis. And we went through a 1.5 year journey of him losing his skin rapidly, where he was hospitalized and had to have this phototherapy, you know, this light therapy. But what it did is that I safely came into the fullness of my feminine power. And as I'm writing here, you know, you angels surround me now and chanting my name as if I were a goddess, and I'm feeling her rise and walk towards her throne and smile. So much to be grateful for. You know what? I'm so blessed that I got to have this experience in this lifetime. All of the photos that I've been showing you were taken by my friend Christina Bouchon. She was living with me from Germany at the time. And I noticed after I put this whole book together, that our eyes are shut in all the photos because we were so inward. And then, you know, we get to the point, and you'll see the next photo, I believe, finally my eyes are open. But he helped me land in my body and really quit skitzing, leaving the body. And he brought so much safety and ecstasy to my life that I really chose to fully incarnate through his love. And losing him from this earthly world to another realm was just the greatest pain. But it also, I began to speak almost immediate astrologies after he died. It started streaming astrology. He put an antenna on my head, and he's feeding me a lot of what I've done here as an astrologer since he passed. And it's our work, really. And so this is a beautiful poem. Sweet life, take me, take hold of my hands and tongue. Let my eyes see what you need them to. May the gentleness of the heart be heard in my words. May the power of the earth be felt in my presence. May I have deep understanding of the power of love's pulse in my being. May the union I share with my man be a manifestation of this power. I let go of fear, of lack, of not trusting in outer appearances. I trust in the divine unfoldment of the journey. I release my attachment to my way. I am open to learning new ways of being and expanding into the heart of love's longing. Let there be stillness so I may fill, and balance that I may flow. And here, finally, he got me to open my eyes. Let's just be here, shall we? Let's show up. I love you for showing me how to be still and allowing me to rest in your presence and trust the past is over. I can release all its pain and be here now with you, loving God, loving myself, loving you, living in the mystery, eyes wide open.
These are beautiful pictures, Kauakea. Thank you so much for sharing part of, in photos, part of your journey. Because, when I met you, it's always just been such a huge piece of the fabric of your life. And it's such a blessing when we have those sacred soul connections and relationships in life. It's really life-changing. And I'm curious too, what was there like one specific tantra practice, because I know there's a lot around breathing and eye gazing and really being in that space together. Was there anything that comes to mind in me bringing this up that you felt really allowed both of you to step into that space? Because it sounds like both of you were committed to a tantric relationship, but was there one thing in particular that comes to mind that you remember being super helpful or beneficial to that deep connection?
You know, there's a vulnerability that's required in intimacy that isn't just about one person in that vulnerability. It takes two people sharing and allowing vulnerability to, whether it's spoken or unspoken, it's very subtle, very, very subtle. And there were times when we did split up, and times when other people were involved that really, I didn't know if we were going to make it. But, you know, when we have karma with someone, if love is leading that karma, it can take us on a transformational journey that's positive. If it starts taking us further away from our loving nature and we become obsessive and strange and incapable of continuing to be vulnerable in growthful ways. But the vulnerability is really key, and that is eye contact. That is a sense of showing up and not often. I see what I call the Bermuda Triangle, which there's a hero involved, there's a victim, you know, little lady in distress, and it goes round and round with someone rescuing someone, and then someone getting strong enough to say, well, you're not the boss of me, because the person who rescues ends up having too much power. So how do we allow ourselves to be strong for one another and allow ourselves to be vulnerable with one another? Once you're in the sexual part of that tantric experience, then I think the magnetism and the electricity that goes on within sexuality itself is something that you're working on. If the masculine and his lingam is penetrating you as a electrical source of energy that's helping you raise your kundalini, you're bringing it up to your heart. You just keep bringing energy up to your heart. When you can pierce through the third chakra, which is really about control and around power, and you allow the energy to move out of your heart, you can penetrate your partner's heart and allow their heart to open with your inner heart lingam as a female. And then through this circuitry, instead of, sometimes there's just, you know, fucking, you know, there's release of tension that is just really can be great at times, but the energy will run down and out. If you want the energy to run up and in, there's got to be internalizing the energy so that you're not just going for the big orgasm, where it's like, I need that pleasure, I need that thing, now give it to me. There has to be this slow pacing, and Fodiaba didn't ever ejaculate, ever. That's pretty amazing. So he had a tremendous control on being able to, what he called, internalize orgasms. And that's where the bandwidth on pleasure becomes wider and wider, because you're not going woo, woo. You know, you're not going like, I need pleasure, I need it now, I got it. It's over. You're actually doing the sting where you're laying in bed for hours, rocking and rolling and kissing. And whether it's rising or it's coming down, you're just in a big wide wave of ecstasy. And there can be talking, there can be no talking, there can be making sounds. We used to play a lot with sound. I mean, I do sound healing, and it all really, in some ways, began in our lovemaking, you know. And so when you have the freedom to really be yourself, when you have the freedom to break free of your own inner constricted energy. And if there has been trauma, usually sexual trauma, there's ways that in the arms of someone who really loves you, they can just hold space so that you're literally shaking all over, making sounds to release this trauma. All of these things, not that I had that kind of sexual abuse, but there was enough held in my nervous system that made so much tightness of just the tautness of living that got completely unwound through the lovemaking, to where it changed the whole way my nervous system operated. And there wasn't just relaxation, it was being very alive and very relaxed at the same time. And that is why, you know, the marriage of the inner feminine, inner masculine, you know, I ended up having to be so strong for him. In the beginning, he was so strong for me, but we just kept showing up for each other and, you know, going through, if we were mad, going through whatever it was, but just saying, okay, love, you know, I surrender. This is our journey. This is what we are going through. And we stay with the we and not make it only about us as an individual, you know. And it just completely changed me from the inside out.
Yeah, and this is so powerful. There's so many different things I want to drop in on in this conversation to like elaborate on, because in our culture, in the patriarch, in the oppression of women, it's been glamorized to just go for the orgasm and the fucking and like the porn industry, and there's so much toxicity in that when people just think that's how sex, relationship, partner, that intimacy piece, and what you're speaking to in the vulnerability being at the core of all this is where we release the shame, where we learn how to actually be in that relationship with another body and another being and another soul. And I just really love everything you just said, because it's kind of like we were speaking to earlier in the astrology stuff of like right now being a time of slowing down, but really in that lovemaking, in that tantra is where the slowing down really needs to happen in order to shed shame, in order to move through old trauma. Because if you're a woman, whether or not you've been through sexual trauma, you've experienced some kind of trauma in your body just by being alive on this planet under a patriarch of oppression, imagery, misogyny, just
Yes.
emotional, all the things of stereotypes around what women should look like and their pussies and their periods and everything, that we're just supposed to be in these little bleached boxes that are nipped and tucked and then go being performative sexually, where for so many mainstream people, it is completely lost upon them that this pleasure-based, vulnerable, love-focused based place is like a nice idea versus their actual practice.
Yeah.
And is really ingrained. So thank you for speaking to that, because it's so important.
Yeah, and I think his surrender to, he followed the moon cycles so closely that when the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, there's a period what's called void of course, where the moon is not in direct relationship to any other planet, and it might be for a few minutes to a few hours to even 2 days. And he would practice pranayama breathing, fasting, and silence during moon voids of course, because his dedication to following the cycles of the moon as honoring the divine feminine was primary. And you know, when he's first like, I'm here to help free the female psyche, I'm like, who are you? What are you talking about? You know? And you know, one of the beautiful things I was able to tell him before he passed away in 2008 was, oh my love, you did it. My female psyche feels free. And you know, that's really what I'm here to help other women learn and other couples learn, how as a man they've also been culturized to believe that they have to fix and solve our problems. And you know, we went through a very funny time when I said, look, I'm going to share with you what's going on in me, but I'm asking you to only respond in one of three ways. You can say, that must be very hard for you. I love you very much. I'm sure we'll get through this. And humor was a big part of our relationship. And at times he'd be like, that must be very hard for you. I love you very much. I'm sure we'll get through this. You know, but they need to be gently told how to be with us in all our emotionality, and that we've got to step out of wanting, to find the hero to save us as damsels in distress, and activate our own inner masculine energy that says, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to get the money? How am I going to get the courage? How am I going to step up and do it? And as we learn to do that, but also go like, wow, I do need help. I can get help. And that we're doing both, then this is the rise of the Aquarian age, is that the brotherhood, sisterhood of humanity, is that we begin to come together in deep friendship. And that's what Aquarius is, friendship. And when we can really have real conversation between two human beings, even though one may be feminine, masculine, we have to have enough inner connection so that the feminine needs a quiet, safe place. Do we even create that for men? Do we allow them to be in their quiet, feeling body that's not necessarily verbal? It's not necessarily words. And how do we learn the alchemy of the subtle things going on? And that's, to me, really where the tantric energy takes place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a huge factor too of, the masculine healing coming into, like, emotions are normal, and crying doesn't mean there's weakness, and really for us as women to hold that space and not project that on, like, the toxic masculine on men too, because I see that a lot with women, where there's like, oh, he's weak, or there's like, we have just as much projections on men as well, culturally, around what a man's supposed to, say, do, be. So it's such a beautiful communication in vulnerability to be able to also really sit back into our femininity, to hold that space for them to be men when they are having emotions, or aren't the person that we go to for the thing that we need, but still respect them in that way. So it's so important for us to also hold that space for them, for their healing as well, because healing is in partnership. It's in relationship. And that's something I learned in Sacred Path. It was a huge piece of, trauma. A lot of the time, in my experience anyway, trauma isolates, and that's where shame lives. And there's only so many books you can read and journaling on your own, but it's actually in confrontations or mending that relationships and healing happen. So
yes,
so crucial and so important.
Yeah. In the neighborhood where we live here on the Big Island in Honolulu, there's a wonderful mentor, Jack Zimmerman, who wrote the book Flesh and Spirit. It's the best book on Tantra I know of, Jack Zimmerman, Flesh and Spirit. He has mentored Gino, my current husband, and I, and it's a wonderful counsel practice that we do, where we have a talking piece, beautiful crystal. We light a candle, and we set the talking piece out, and one person picks it up, and they, the only tenets of counsel are, maintain as much eye contact as you can, speak from your heart, listen from your heart, and keep your words lean, so that you're not hogging the talking piece and talking for, a half hour or something. Talk for 5 or 10 minutes, set the piece down, and let your partner talk, and really deeply listen with your heart. And that has allowed, even though the relationship for me with Gino is not like Fodiaba in a big sexual way, there's still so much alchemy going on in terms of the subtlety of really understanding one another, and understanding, like, where the past hurts are for both of us, and where those places not to step are, where we're going to re-wound one another, where we need to be just mindful. And counsel practice is something that I'm really loving teaching other couples, because I think it's the pathway in to finding the safety so that the sexual experiences of trust can really happen, and we develop a deeper trust with one another.
It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I'm gonna have to check out that book. I love that. So, well, is there anything else? Was there any other things that, because I know you kind of went through a couple at the beginning, but I would love for you to share how people can get a hold of you, what things you got going on, and of course we'll leave your contact information in the comments and everything when we post the replay or in the live as well. But yeah, let people know what you got going on right now and how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. Besides doing astrology readings on Zoom, which I love doing one-on-one, I created the Vesta Mystery School set of cards, which have for each sign of the zodiac, skillful and unskillful. The planets are there with their conscious and unconscious expressions. And this is a self-study course on my website, vestamysteryschool.com. And the 86-page workbook it's a coloring book, as well as the way you lay the cards out and interpret your own chart. And so this is $149 on my site. My readings are $89 for an hour on Zoom. I'm also introducing some products from Greece that I discovered by Kokorina. And this is LFA. It's a 2021 day planner. It's an astrological day planner. And I'm going to be doing groups on where the people who buy this book, we meet twice a month on the full and the new moon. And there's questions in this book around the themes for each new and full moon that we'll be working on. One of the things I'm passionate about is, as astrology becomes so well known on social media now, I feel people really need to know in their own chart, like this Scorpio new moon is coming on Saturday. Well, where does that new moon fall in my chart? What house is that in? Then I can know what area of my life I should be focusing my intentions on, or whether that's new moon intentions or full moon releasing patterns and things you might want to burn. I think that is the work that Fodiaba and I, through still this inner union going on, is finding a way to bring to people astrology in everyday living, where it's not such a deep rabbit hole that you're just lost in it, that you're just finding a way to relate to it. I'm a Virgo, I have a Scorpio rising, I have an Aries moon. I can get very excited with that Aries moon on things, but I want to help people learn how to take astrology into a more compassionate process with themselves through daily practices, and maybe that's not even daily, twice a month, new moon, full moon. And just knowing, where the moon is, what phase it's in. It can be life-changing to help us to lead a more subtle feminine life instead of being in this harsh outer world we're in. So VestaMysterySchool.com is the website. And then I also have Healing Resource Hawaii. They're both on Instagram as well as Facebook and websites. And Alea, my daughter, who's 37 now, lives here on the Big Island, and she and I will be doing retreats together. She's a yogini and a vegan caterer and does all kinds of things. And so we're wanting to, as things open up, do more here on the Big Island to support. The place I just stayed in Kona for 4 nights with my husband, I would love to do like couples retreats there where we just have 2 other couples we're working with. And so that's right on the water in Kona. It's keeping things small, not big groups. Doing sound healing work if you're stuck here and you want to do sound healing stuff over Zoom, or you need a hands-on healing, I do that work distance, and it's been really powerful. So
Yeah,
that's what I've got going on.
Yeah, yeah, and I can, speak and be a testimonial here. Like, you helped me heal so much around finding my voice, and the sound healing is all incredible. In the astrology for couples, I've done it all, so I highly recommend it. And again, thank you so much, Kauakea, for spending your morning, because it's early over there in Hawaii. But thank you. And for anyone listening, I will be putting in her information and how to contact her and hire her and do all the things in the comments below. We haven't been keeping track of the comments, so we'll go back and see if there's any questions or say hello to anyone that watched. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you again, Kauakea, for being here today.
Thank you, Nicole. It was great to get together and do this. I appreciate it so much.